of us who are in service today, that we can correct those issues or the mistakes when we are still able to correct them. Yesterday, we talked on different issues which regards to legal aspects, where we set up a committee which is going to sit with the technical team of the Attorney General's office to come up with opinion. Then we can have an informed view on our recommendations. Today, we are going to handle two things in administrative aspect, that is the accountability. And when you look at the Auditor General's report, why I say that one falls under the accountability, they mentioned that most properties were taken due to political influence. And where I could find a property which was supposed to be paid as a reserve price of, let's say, 20 million, someone, because of political influence, pays 8 million. Then the 12 million, nowhere to be. So we feel that it will be prudent if they want those properties to go by the reserve price. If someone really paid 8 million, it's a property which was supposed to be paid 20 million, it should pay the balance of 12 million. I think it will be fair enough for our country and the person who has used that. Because if the government, if the owner comes, the government has to compensate that person. Where will the government get the money when someone has taken the property under the reserve price? Well, that means the government will have to go deep in its pocket on taxpayers' money to fill the gap. So I don't think that it is prudent to allow that to happen. So these are some of the issues we are going to interact with today. Before we proceed with the issue, I'd like to put Honorable Kasaija, because he has come late, but I don't like to go straight on that issue, but just to wake me up in the minutes of the minutes which you start on July 1999, and the minute number 443, a member, Mr. Kashaija, informed the meeting that there was information that some Asians, e.g. the owners of plot number 3, Kampala Road, had obtained repossession, yet they had been paid and compensated. That's where I want to start. Honorable Minister, now you are chairman of the board. Then you were a member of the board. And despite in this time you were a member of the board, but previously you were the executive secretary of the board. And you were aware that this plot, number 3, Kampala Road, which is called Station House, it was compensated. Why is it again that up now you had all position of power to collect those anomalies, but up to now, according to our investigation, it says that the property is still, it is under Dr. Mamtaz. How can you briefly tell us, did Mamtaz later came and the minister dealt in the property, or?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I left the Katana board in 1994. When I went away, that's more than 20 years. Certain thing took place subsequently. I found
from what I was being reported to, that property had been repossessed. I instructed my people to dig out all the information so that we can take legal action if necessary. And unfortunately, my capacity also at the concerned board now has got so many things to handle. We have not fully concluded, but maybe I'll ask Mr. Bezebu to see how far we have gone in trying to recover that property.
Executive Secretary.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Through my chairperson, I beg to submit to this honorable committee that we communicated to the Attorney General. Actually, yesterday I submitted to you. Plot 3 Kampala Road is among the properties where a certificate of repossession was issued, but after thorough check, thorough comparison of the file and the status quo, the file indicates that the property was compensated for by government. And some later on, the owners, through Mamtaz, opted to repossess. And without any lot of evidence that they paid back what government had compensated, the process of repossession was carried out. Honorable Chair, we asked for an opinion from the Attorney General, and to date we have not got any response.
What's that law say about any property which was paid off? Does it say that the person should come back and pay? Because what I recall very well, in the Constituent Assembly, the first committee, they did recommend that it's only on the property, that where the person had come and his property was redeemed, he owed to pay the government the money which they used to redeem the property on the value as per that time, so that he can proceed with the process. Whereby this property was not part of the redeemed property. How then, when the government paid? Because the government paid, they used that money which they paid, they made profit. How do you tell, what does the law say? If the person, because the law is silent on it stops on, if someone comes, when the property has been taken over the government, you compensate.
No, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. The very moment the government of Uganda compensated for that building and another building, it became automatically property of Uganda. There is no law which is saying even those property that were compensated for, they can be reclaimed. Unless someone can draw to my attention that part of the law.
Honorable Chair, I beg to add something on the issue at hand. It is true the Honorable Minister assigned us to provide him with a narrative. And in that narrative, we found out that the property was fully compensated before. But the one who legal manager did, Mr. Original Manager, wrote Mamtaz and those people saying they should refund the money which was compensated by government. And she did pass over that property without any kind of authority. While we were thinking that, Mamtaz wanted to go to court and take us to court. And we did respond and say this property is compensated before. And that's Babat Kabele's opinion. This we are supposed to prosecute it. So she opted to go to civil division. And we also said the matter under Ms. Valentine Kampala office. The matter is the final statement. That's the information I thought I could provide. Thank you.
Do you have that narrative so that you can submit to this committee the copy of it? So
We will all the status of the court. We shall submit on the Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Chairman, remember the person who is mentioned have made that decision. He's supposed to be here with us. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know why that person is not appearing. Because it is one of the reasons why we wanted her to appear before this school. And when the executive secretary says that somebody issued a promotion certificate, how do we issue promotion certificates? We do diligence, or we just write and do something wrong? Because if the due diligence was done, then there should have been information that this property was compensated. So, through the chair, I want to know why that witness is not here with us.
I remember when the committee directed the first time, even yesterday we did the same. So we shall request the chairperson of the board to brief the committee on whereabouts of the former legal manager, Mr. Orange.
No, miss, not Mr. She's a lady.
She's a lady?
She's a lady. Okay, I think we can pass her. She's no longer under my...
She's just here in the midst
Of where? Ethics.
Ethics here across.
Oh. But Mr. Chairman, just help me. Don't you think on this issue now you have more powers because you are a committee of parliament and you are investigating this matter? Don't you think you will bear more weight if you summoned her in writing that there's issue here, would like you to come and clarify it? Because me, if I write now, supposing she says no, what do I do? She's not under my if she was under my ministry, then that would be. But me, I think to do a good job, my advice is that this committee should write to her and say, please, there is a subject matter which we dealt with. After all, the good thing, she's still in public service, even if she had been retired, like she has retired. Come and explain how this went. I thought that would be more appropriate than myself from Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Just add on to what the Minister said. Since the Honorable Committee has the powers in the High Court after the summon, I think it will be after with your powers. Some matters we talked about after this, you may even say no, but your authority will compel her to come because you have the power to retire.
Honorable members.
Mr. Chairman, I'm interested to know when the board members knew what Madame Namile did, what did they do to her? Because in case your worker has done something, I understand you say is wrong, what did you do?
In fact, in addition to that, even then, the minute in which Honorable said he raised that anomaly, Mrs. Ruth Namimbo Orijo, the then legal manager of Custodian Board, was in attendance.
So the question, the Honorable, is asking what happened, what action do we take?
Yes.
I was waiting for this write-up so that we take appropriate action to ask either the Attorney General or whoever.
Chairperson,
Information chair.
during that period of time, Mr. was not around. In that board meeting you held on Tuesday in July 1997 in the Ministry of Finance boardroom at Telecommunications House, Mr. was not present with the executive secretary, and you did raise the same issue in which Mrs. Orijo Ruth Namilebe, the former legal manager, was in attendance. The question is, when he raised the issue, in attendance of the person today, we arranged that he did authorize the repossession. He was in attendance. What happened?
Well, I can't remember the background, whether we were accusing her directly when she was there and was asked to respond. I don't know. I can't remember. I raised that issue because I think we were talking about repossessed, property that had been compensated for being repossessed.
Yes,
but
example.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking, it was under compensation properties. That was the issue. And you gave an example, you say members informed the meeting that there was information that some Asians, the owners of Road 3, Kampala Road, had obtained repossession. Yet, they had been paid, they had been compensated.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but at that time I was not aware that that lady participated in what I call it, in having the property returned. I was not aware at all. So I could not have taken that decision. But now, when I came back and now as a minister and I became the chairman, my executive secretary here says she's in court on the same issue.
Yes, we're in court.
We're in court on the same issue.
I think it will be prudent for the committee to interact with the Ruth Namengorigo on that aspect, know where it based his narrative to accept, to allow
the repossession of the property.
Repossession of this property. I therefore direct our clerk to invite Namengorigo to appear before this committee on 2nd November.
Mr. Chairman, I think let us avoid the second. Second and third.
Oh, second, that's presidential.
Because we have nominations on the second and the third. We have presidential elections on the second, and national elections. So I think let us.
So I give it to the clerk to go through our program to see how we can interface with her to clear this, so that by the time that committee, which we had agreed to meet with the Attorney General's office, can be able to know what it's based on to accept that, so that we can also deliberate that when our deliberations we put across that to see whether it was legally viable for her to direct so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm also interested, I'm very happy you are in court. But you are in court on what? My simple thinking would be that this narrative is key to custodian board. So in that court where, what has Namile told you? Because she must be a key person with a lot of knowledge of this issue. Exactly, what does the file say?
Chair, in addition to what is asking, I thought if she's an officer and she has made a mistake, it is a person that I don't think. Are you in court because of action or you are in court on other things? Because you may be busy in court on other things when the person is just applied. What are you doing in court? What's the matter here?
Honorable Chair, in court, the principal issue is to have the property referred back to government. And Honorable Chair, as advised by our lawyers, we are still in between the lines whether to include Alijo on our side, because we also fear you can bring a hostile witness in your case. Since she's the one who dealt in it, we would prefer bringing her at a later stage, not bring her as a witness, because she can turn a hostile witness and spoil the whole issue. So we shall be advised by the legal consultants on how to bring Orijo in. Orijo can be handled at different levels. She can be handled by the board for having misrepresented the board, for having done something wrong. And if we are advised by our consultants to have her in the principal case, be it, we need to be advised.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
My view is that the decision of the board on Namirembe for how wrongdoing would be a good evidence in court. Because you as a board, you have not done anything against the officer. So what have you done? If there is something you have done, a decision you have taken, then maybe you use it as an evidence that what she did was wrong and the board took the decision. That's why you are now against the decision.
Honorable Chair, that one is subject to again advice, because if we accept that Namirembe did something wrong, it can cause us a problem. We need to vindicate the people who are compensated, because they knew that they were compensated, but they went ahead to repossess. So we need to vindicate those people who did something knowingly, because they knew that they were compensated. Then how come that they turned around to repossess?
In other words, what my executive secretary is saying, I think to conclusively deal with this matter, okay, the officers must account, but even the people who repossessed should be held accountable. You know very well, government of Uganda paid you. Why and now are you coming to claim? As I said, let me repeat it for emphasis. Properties that were compensated by government became the properties of the government of Uganda. They were no longer owned by Patel or something, whoever claimed, because they opted to claim.
Now the process was cleared by the officer.
That's what I'm saying. She should come and explain how she did it. And unfortunately, she did it when I wasn't even around myself. So I think she should come and explain why she did it such a name.
So members who have
Mr. Chairman,
Can I add on
just
something?
one comment, Mr. Chairman. This committee, we are not hunting anybody. You and us, we are trying to make improvements in the management of this country. But somebody to tell me that you see, if you talk like that, you tell your worker you have made a mistake, it will be against you in court. In many ministries, people have been arrested. Say you have embezzled this, you have done this, arrested and taken to court. I've never heard them saying that this man is in one of our minister. I think, Mr. Chairman, let us work together as Ugandans to make improvements in this country. If we go like this, we are in trouble. You can't say somebody has done wrong. No, if you say in the court, they will say you are against it. But you know it is wrong. Okay, even if it is right. The judge will say you are wrong to say this lady Namirembe allowed somebody to take the property, you live work. That's not a crime. But somebody cannot do something wrong. And then you do nothing, fearing that something will backfire. Mr. Chairman, we should not be misunderstood when you ask these questions. We are trying to improve the management. We are not looking for culprits. If somebody has made a mistake, all of us make mistakes. But let us not repeat the same mistake. But when we sit here and then somebody says, if we talk about it in court, they will be against it. Gentlemen.
Honorable Chair, I beg to correct the impasse, and I want to be clear on record. Honorable Chair, this is an issue in court. We are being advised by the legal consultants. Honorable Chair, Mrs. Alijo can be handled at a different level to account for her mistakes. But when we are in court, it is us to identify the useful witnesses who can come to court for the best of our case. But here I'm listening that anybody who has done something wrong should be exonerated. What we are saying, for purposes of our court case, Namirembe can be handled at another level, but not in our case. according to the advice we get from our legal consultants.
No,
What information did he base to go to court, if not involving Namirembe?
Honorable Chair, according to the opinion of Honorable Katulebe then, he stated it clearly that whoever will be found to have been compensated, and if somebody turned around and came back to repossess the property, that person should be prosecuted. On top of that, lose the property. So we are basing on that legal opinion.
No, Mr. Bizibu, you understand what the committee is saying. I think there is a weakness on our part, which I think I should admit. The question is, Honorable Viandara, the question is, what have we done against our own officers who participated and facilitated the repossession of properties which should never have been repossessed?
For the last 23 years.
Yes. So there is a weakness which I must admit on our side, because if we have evidence that Orijo did behave the way we are describing, then I think we should have taken either disciplinary action or legal action against her for having done something that was illegal in the first place. So there is a weakness, I must admit, on this.
It's very thin.
Members, I want to put it into you that we have a lot of work to do on these issues. We have different issues, so when we are submitting, we should give it our submission. It should be brief but precise, so our witness respond and we move to another issue. We can proceed something.
So, Mr. Chairman, as I was saying, Anthony Dennis, they told us here they are very thin. This case has been in court now going to 20 years. There will be court sessions, there will be nobody, the case will be dismissed.
So what are you suggesting that to?
So members, on that, we are going to, they will have to write to Namengo region, so that can also hear her side. Then as a committee, we shall sit after interfacing with her, then make our recommendation in that regard. Honorable Chairperson, I remember our first interface with you. We looked at the Auditor General's report, where he stated that most properties of custodian bonds were given out based on political influence, which let the government lose a good sum of money. I remember in that committee, I mentioned some few senior citizens who did benefit due to political influence. And it caused some havoc within the board. And he requested me to submit to you the source of the information, to which I did. Having read through the source of the information which I gave you, what were your findings? Well, by the time the committee aired out that, was it a lie? It was true. They did involve themselves using political influence to acquire the government properties, or it's not true.
It's not true.
First of all, I thank you for having given us that information. But when we made research, we could not conclusively ascertain that these properties were really taken due to political influence.
I remember having called me the following day when it appeared in a monitor, and I never wanted to discuss that. And you did accept the sampling of the senior citizen you called, and you told me indeed it was true, but you'll find a way how we can solve that. Is that still your statement, you believe that you could still do something of what happened then?
Do you remember what you hear what he's asking?
Yes.
Let me ask my secretary here to answer that question.
Honorable Chair, when that issue was raised here, actually we did some research to the extent that the Honorable Minister even called some individuals. Honorable Chair, the people who were called, and these are people to reckon with, they gave their narrative. Some of the properties where they dealt, actually there was a due process by then. The investor committee did its due diligence, and they handled it in a legally recognized manner. And the Honorable Chair,
Mr. Visible, Executive Secretary, we are talking this, if I may quote what the chairman of the board said, that we're not here to cover the anomalies. So if someone has done something, we should say something. Because, for instance, let me give you an example of one person, because whoever did prepare this was giving a remark, said he never bidded for the properties, but forwarded a handwritten letter. Then I put Exhibit 6. He paid shillings 400,000 against the reserve price of 2.3. Other potential bidders of 1.8, a sitting tenant, and 1 million and 300 were ignored. So I want, when you are giving us what you really uncovered, because I gave you the source, which you never disputed, you will tell us that this happened, because we are looking at now here, they were supposed, he never bidded. There are those who bidded, because now I'm trying to disprove you when you say they went through the rightful process. Now this one never bidded, he just wrote with a handwritten. The price he paid was 400, the reserve price was 2.3. There was someone who has bidded with 1.8 and 1 million. You ignored them. How would you tell me on that?
Honorable Chair, upon submission of that big document, the board met. We met to discuss the same. So under his chairperson, today's chairperson. Honorable Chair, we have the report of the investor committee. Honorable Chair, the report you gave to the board was handwritten. So the board wondered how could that record suffice against this one. And Honorable Chair, this report you are having as a committee.
No, Mr. Bishop. I don't want to, because I know you know the truth, and I will get the truth from you. This committee will get the truth from you. On the same list, I remember we did include Honorable Welike on the same, and Honorable Welike did write a response to the committee on that allegation and his part, how he came in. So, by you telling this was a handwritten, this was also a handwritten, but in a different way that it was typed. And if I might give you the reason of this. There were 3 books in your archive. And all those books were destroyed. But because of the sensitivity of the person, he said, one day these things might come up. He tried to record this, and it's under your custody. I believe so, because that's where I got it. So that's why I'm insisting, if you say that I will prove you wrong. I just want to see something which is going to help this committee. So that even as politicians, today we are politicians, we should not use our political positions to deny government what they would have got because I'm a member of parliament, because I'm a minister, because I'm an RDC, because I'm so and so. So the issue here, that's what Honorable Biandala has put across, that it's not about blaming, but it's about righting the wrongs which those fellows of us did. Where something was gone wrong, we should accept it and find a way of rectifying it, but not keep denying. Because if we go, we can task you to bring all the batches and those who had bidded, because I prove you have the list. What if we find that indeed the information here is that very information which is not bid documents which you did? What will you do?
Okay, Honorable Chair, through my chair, actually what we have as a public record is what we gave this committee. Honorable Chair, I pray that we compare notes with what you have and what we have. And the Honorable Chair, from that time, actually, work has been going. As you remember, when we were in Masaka, people had not paid fully. You remember what happened? Some people are paying, and they were elective. I don't know, Chair, if there is any anomaly. I really, it's unfortunate. We can correct the impasse.
Yes,
No. But sorry, Mr. Chairman, I will intervene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, we have said it to time and again that this is an accountability committee. What the chairman is presenting is from the Octagonal report that because of political influence, some properties were undermanaged. That because of political influence, people are faulting for the payments. That because of political influence, there was no authorization and approval. So the procedure was not followed. Now, according to instance, we say that the board had a meeting and we discussed this matter. Can you give us a copy of the minutes of the board where this matter was discussed? Because we are using the book, we are not the book, and for us we are using the report. And we got a copy of this report. What was the response of these matters? So I think, Chair, without evidence, Mr. should not waste our time. We should accept his mistakes. Then as a committee, make a decision.
Mr. Bizimo, I think before I go through, the chairperson wanted to say something on that.
No, I wanted to say that this matter was brought to our attention, Mr. Bizibu. We should have worked on that information. We should have worked on that information either to dispute it with the credible evidence that that is not right. What is right is this. I think again we missed a step, because I know we discussed that thing in the board, but I'm not so sure whether we filed a report to the committee to say, okay, on this one that is true, this is not true, this is not true. I doubt very much. Do we have a thing like that?
The Executive Secretary.
Honorable Chair, we have it in the responses, but since that was some time back, what we are covering is recovery of the national paid, but the undervalued, actually, the chairman ruled that the undervaluations should not reoccur.
You see, Mr.
That's not enough.
Mr. We get a concern, and that concern was raised by the Auditor General. And the Auditor General, when he raised that concern, that most people, they got those properties based on political influence. As a committee, we did our work. And indeed, we agreed with the Auditor General that that issue he raised, indeed, it did happen. And we brought the evidence before you, to which I remember even Honorable Enike was trying to dispute it, and we showed him the fact, and he remembered, and he wrote the analogy how it happened with evidence, in fact with receipts, with receipts. Now, how then that you Executive Secretary, you are disputing this instead of finding the solution for what happened? Because you can't tell me a reserve price is 2.3 and someone has paid 400. If it was not political influence, there was someone who bid it and he was paying 1.8. And he was a tenant who's supposed to be given the first priority. Another one was bidded with 1 million. And for you went with someone with 400 who had not even bidded. Mama Biro. I remember by this time we were apart.
Can I suggest this, Mr. Chairman? No.
No, before the chairman comes in, with the institutional memory for Mama Juru, I think we have to go have institutional memory for that. That's three. That's Mama Juru, the chairperson, the current chairperson, and the other secretary. But Mama Juru, what do you have to say about that political influence bit? Because we are seeing one, because we are partly involved in this. Now, this person with the handwritten letter submitted with 400 or against the reserve price of 2.3. Moreover, there were potential bidders who had followed the due process, and the highest bidder was 1.8. Another one was 1 million. You ignored all these, and you gave the property to the one who bid at 400 with the handwritten, but it was not even part of those who bid.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. If a mistake was made, if what we are telling us is exactly what happened, then the investor committee that was selling, myself included, we were wrong. We look for an opportunity and then you give us an opportunity to correct the mistake that probably was made.
The opportunity would be for you to fill the gap, because now that means for the investor committee then to pay 1.4 plus that make it 1.8. That would be the only issue to the committee so that you can fill the value.
Mr. Chairman, that being the case, probably we should be given an opportunity to look at the file and we do the necessary corrections.
If you remember very well, how much did Dr. Prespas Yonga paid on plot 15A LRV 374 folio 25?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Probably we have to look at the file because we sold so many properties. If I look at the file, I know exactly what took place and corrective measures that we may have to do. We want to make the situation right.
Honorable Chair.
This is precisely what I wanted to say. We shall ask you for your indulgence. You give us a day. We go back and look. I know I wrote it to Honorable Kionga, but I cannot recollect exactly what he replied, but he vehemently refused. He said, no, that was never the case. So why don't you, on this particular item, give us the rest of this afternoon?
You can speak near the microphone.
So
the microphone was sanitized, so you can.
I fear. Chairman, what I was saying,
yes.
just to add what Mama Juru is saying, give us this afternoon to retreat, and we go and find out and give you, because we acted, there's no question about that. At least I can remember very well, they acted on Honorable Kiongai. He was in China. I even sent him an email and said, this allegation is against you, what are you saying? And he replied. So we need to go back on the file and check, and then we'll give you.
Because we can't really, even if you want to leave, you look at now when you see plot 13, LRP 658, 4024, it was given by the beneficiary was James Makode Ikuya, designation director, mobilization, movement secretariat. The sales price was 13,500,000, and by the private treaty, but he was offered this property at a reduced value of 6 million. From 13.
No, Mr. Chairman.
How much does the government lost?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not disputing whether the facts is correct. I mean, whether that's a fact or not. I'm not disputing that one. All I'm praying for is to give me chance to retreat with my staff.
I have no problem by giving you chance, but I gave you this information because normally as a committee we would remain with our investigation. But as a colleague, I submitted this information before you.
I am aware, Mr.
But
Chairman.
since then, almost 7 to 8 months back, how sure? What assurance can you give this committee that within the 2-3 days you are asking, you'll be able to respond to almost 100 or 100 properties, 150 properties, which was indicated in here, which had gone out of due to political influence within these few hours?
That's what I'm saying, that we're going to look at our record. In other words, I think your question is, what action have you taken? And I want to come and report to you what action we have taken. I can't now have it in my head straight now.
But you see, Mr. Chairman, you executive secretary is saying that this matter was discussed in the board meeting. That's why I was asking for the board minutes.
Yeah.
So what did you discuss in the board meeting?
We need to check. We can't. Honorable Minister.
No, okay. That one it would be a bit difficult. Which board meeting did you start? You can give us a date, and because those minutes you being the custodian of custodian board says documentation.
Definitely, we have them.
You must have that minute where discuss this, so that we really appreciate with your discussion, which you discussed on the same.
Mr. Chairman, I think this was the 28th of December.
10th?
28th of December.
20?
28th of December 2019.
28th?
Of December 2019.
December 2019. You seem to be having
However, Mr. Chairman,
the minute. You can help us with it.
I have had an opportunity since this matter came up and invited us. I've had an opportunity to interact with most of those people. But the point in question was the point of law, which falls under this instrument, Mr. Chairman. So the issue is that this property was offered for sale, and the number of times not corresponded. But here, Mr. Chairman,
Number of times people were not responding.
Not responding.
But now I want when you are giving us that section, where the minister can act after people failing to respond, vis-a-vis what we have, people responded, bidded, with the highest bidder was 1.8, the reserve price was 2.3, the highest bidder was 1.8, the second was 1 million, the third was 300. Those, they afforded due diligence to bid. And then someone outside that, because he's a minister, wrote with the handwritten, and was considered, moreover, was paying 400. So when you are reading that law, I want you to interpret it not to shoot your interest, but based on the facts at hand.
I agree, Mr. Chairman, but in this particular instance, the number
No, in my particular instance.
that one is isolated, Mr. Chairman. That's what is isolated.
So,
But
if
this
that
one,
was
Mr. Chairman, and you have been said to blame, disposal other than by sale. Where any property remains unsold after having been offered for sale in accordance with paragraph 2 of this order, the property shall be reforfeited.
Mr. Chairperson, you know a good lawyer knows where to apply the law. It's true you have the law, but you're applying it in the wrong way. It's totally different from what we're talking about.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mama Juru.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I acknowledge on behalf of the Investor Committee that the mistake was made. We are going to correct it. We shall consult with all the parties concerned and make sure that that money is recovered. Please, we shall do
So we need a report within 1 week on that.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Just one comment.
That thing has not amended. If it happened, it happened. It should not come again.
If it happened, the culprits should be said as
But
possible.
They use the
I
law.
think as you try to
Like
recover
Shionga.
this
Shionga. How it was advertised 5 more
you
and
have to
10 was
consider the
nobody was
dislocation,
Nobody
economic
turned up.
dislocation factor. How are you going to explain it to us and for us to explain it to Parliament? Because if the thing was the 1 million then, and you are paying now, what are we going to do considering the economic dislocation factor?
No. Who's answering that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the answer to Mr. Chairman. We shall look at all those factors why we can resolve this problem. We have our valuers will help us to solve this matter. Thank you very much.
Mama Juru,
Yes, sir.
can you repeat your response?
But
Can you repeat your response?
what I said is, Mr. Chairman, that we have realized the Investor Committee made a mistake. We are going to try to correct this mistake. Really, I am saying sorry that the Investor Committee made a mistake, because that was not how a property was supposed to be disposed of. What we are going to do, we shall get a file, look at what is possible. Now, somebody raised the question of the economic disposition and so forth. And I am saying that we have got valuers who know how to arrive at those values. And the people concerned, I am sure, will cooperate with us and resolve the matter in the interest of this country. Thank you.
Then you should report, we should do that, Executive Secretary, direct you to report to this Parliament what you would have resolved on this, because we can't leave all this. If you compute the money which the government lost, it is in 2 to 3 billion. If you get 3 billion and you put medicine or hospitals, health center 2, health center 3, you will find that many Ugandans will benefit. So to me, I will not leave this until we get what you would have arrived at in solving this matter, so that the committee can, based on that, also appreciate your response to recommend to the bigger Parliament to discuss on the same. Because there is no shortcut. We shall table this to the floor of Parliament for further discussion. So the earlier you find a solution and helps us conclude this, the better. Thank you. Members, if I can go back a bit on clause 3 before we proceed. When you look at the issue, it was not Mumtaz didn't repossess.
What happens to where an issue that was raised about our Ismail incident, and this was duly submitted?
We cleared you on
So
that.
you not the enshrined?
Yes, so I'm cleared on that.
Thank you.
Because you took the due diligence and you responded to the committee, and indeed we followed up the matter, and the committee will do the due diligence. So, on point 3, Honorable Minister, you see, there is now Statutory family, not Mumtaz as a person according to what is in the records. There is a repossession certificate, which needs, I've seen the signature, which I've never seen, but there is a repossession certificate. There is a departed Asians property custodian board receipt, acknowledging the receipt of a check. Diamond Trust from Diamond Trust Bank, which was issued on the sale. So we shall need to also know who will take responsibility of that, if at all, in the court you fail to finalize the case for the government to take back its property. So you should put in consideration that you accepted the check, you did recognize, you did bank the check, you never returned back the money, so you still have that money. So you should know if when you should also compare notes. If you proceed and someone starts, computing what the money would have gotten, the profit would have got in using the money you got, how much the government will pay, and the cost for having your property back, then you see the best you can do on that. Thank you for that. Now, Honorable Minister, we are going on the issue of accountability, where all of us will acknowledge that by that time, by 2005, 1,524 properties and 66 branches were sold and fully paid off. And we realized 15.378 billion Ghana shillings. And we're asking ourselves as a committee that we saw different accounts. Under collection account, we had 2 collection accounts. We had account number 0008-008-002-203 as the collection account. We also, that is in the Bank of Uganda, we also have the collection account number 014-000-11-26-901 under Islamic Bank, IPS, if as a board, the chairperson of the board. Which account among the 2 accounts during your tenure did you use to bank the proceedings from
the rent
from the sale
and the rent?
And under operational account, we also have 2. We have operational account number 00-800-88-000-202 in Bank of Uganda, and also another operational account number 014-000-26-902 in Islamic Bank. As the first executive secretary, was he the first executive secretary?
No, there was somebody before. I came later on.
Okay.
After the overthrow of Amin, that's when I came in myself. But there had been somebody before NLA.
Now, during the period when you were the executive secretary, which I believe you were signatory to most of those accounts, the accounts of the
No, there were 2. As I said earlier, I'm just repeating myself because I've answered this question. This may be the 3rd or 4th time. There were 2 accounts. There was the collection account. That collection account, I was not a signatory at all.
But it was where?
Bank of Uganda. That's where we would bank that money. Money from, at that time mainly it was rent. Because we had not, by the time I was in charge as executive secretary, although they gave me a different title from State House, there were no sales yet. We are not selling, we are not disposing of properties yet. It was just mere collection of rent. It will be deposited in that account in the Bank of Uganda. Then there was what we were calling operation account. I think that operation account also was in the Bank of Uganda, if I'm not mistaken. Then the money would be transferred from the for the collection account into the operations account. What I can't recollect very well, the custodial board could have had an account in a commercial bank. I can't recollect very well. There could have been had an additional account in a commercial bank where money from the operational account will be deposited for custodial board to access the money. The accounting officer, who was me at that time, the accounting officer, and that account was signed by the executive secretary, custodial board, and the permanent secretary. If any time I wanted the money, we write a check, I sign it, I send it to Minister of Finance, then the PST would countersign, and then I would take that check to the bank and draw cash.
Undersecretary, former Undersecretary, by the time to charge, how many accounts they handed over to you? And if there was, did you continue to operate those accounts, or you did open the new accounts? If you did open the new accounts, what was the reason as to open the new accounts? And in which bank? If it was in the Bank of Uganda or in other banks? And what instruments, if at all, you did open them in a different account, or you are opened in different accounts? What instruments, according to your recollection, did they use, those who might have opened them, and the reasons to open other accounts from Bank of Uganda to commercial banks?
Thank you, Chair. My name is, I apologize tomorrow, yesterday, it was a misunderstanding that in short. I take responsibility. It wasn't intentional. When I joined the ministry, I was given a handover report by the then secretary, and Chair, this is presented in the report of the Secretary of the Treasury that presented of the 26th of October, and on page 2, section 2.
Wait a bit.
Page 2, section 2. When I joined the ministry, there was a collection account with Standard Bank, and this was account number 0140011126901. And on this account, all the proceeds from the sale of properties was banked. The signatories were the PSS and the secretary. The money from this account could be accessed after verification by the Commissioner Internal Audit, who is the Internal Auditor General now. And by the time I joined, the balances were 805,483, 237 million. There was a second account with Standard Bank. This was account number 040112692, and the signatories were Undersecretary and the legal manager. And at the time I took over, the balances were not indicated on this account. But since Standard Bank gave us the balances later, there was another account which was a special divestiture revolving bank account with the Bank of Uganda. This was number 001.24201.8.1. And this account was kept with the Bank of Uganda. Funds deposited on this collection from this account, or from the collection account, were transferred to this account, and it was controlled by the Accountant General. By the time I joined, the balances of this account were 335,861 million. Chairperson, in the year 2006, Government of Uganda took a decision to close commercial accounts for Government of Uganda to Central Bank. And the Accountant General have closed these accounts and took the accounts to Bank of Uganda. The accounting officer, chairperson, did not have the mandate to close or open any account.
My question, I have 2 questions on that. If you can help this committee to understand, what was, you mentioned collection account, operation account, and divestiture account. Could you take through this committee what was supposed to be banked here and there and all those accounts so that we can appreciate what?
Chair, on the collection account, these were the monies banked there were the proceeds from the sale of properties. On the operational account, this was the monies to run the custodian board and compensate and pay all the other payments that were due. On the special divestiture groping account, the funds deposited here would be coming from the collection account. I think people would pay for custodian board on the collection account, and this money will be transferred to the divestiture groping account.
Because to our investigation, based on our investigation, we found that none of these accounts were closed. Because because by the time the collection account in the Bank of Uganda, by the time we had the collection account which you inherited, there was an active collection account which was not closed, which was still running. Now, what brings now the questions and puzzles why we want to know this, because we are asking ourselves, that was the account where the proceedings, we presume the 15 billion was banked on that account. Let's assume. Why was they closed and then you opened other accounts and then you closed those accounts and you went back to the first accounts which you purported to have closed?
Chair, if I understand you well, I think when these were closed in Stanbic Bank, they were taken to the central bank. And I think, if you look at the statement, I think they maintained the same account serial numbers in the central bank. And at that time, government started the system of straight through STP. So all commercial bank accounts were closed and taken to the central bank. So, and I think when these were taken there, they maintained the same account numbers.
My question, the question which before I come in, the question which we are now wondering is the statement that when the commercial bank accounts were closed, they were transferred to Bank of Uganda and remained with the same serial number, not so. But in our research and the documentations we have, we think because the letter which was written by Auditor General on 6 July 2010 in regards to opening the new accounts, they said it very well that custodian board, they had accounts in Bank of Uganda, and those accounts were still running. I don't now we get pattern
There is another matter.
as under secretary. You can help us. Then, if now where was those new accounts? If they closed the proceedings, the statements, by the time they closed them to transfer them to Bank of Uganda. how does the statement, where does the statements of those accounts, if you submit them to the committee or the authorities, those who are charged you in that, or by the time they closed them, they didn't have even a coin on them?
Sure, there was money on those accounts. Accounts as I'm stating, this was in 2006. Statement in 2006 on the and all these were transferred to the central bank.
Can we be prepared to have a look at those documents, because I presume that they're not part of the documents you submitted for the forms. So that we need to appreciate that, because the Undersecretary, former Undersecretary, we are not asking this in a bad faith, but the issue, we are trying to track down the 15 billion which were paid off within the which was a proceeds from the sales of those properties. And we presume that because the law had never stopped someone to come and claim for compensation. So we are thinking that those properties which were sold, what if the following day someone comes and you claim those properties and we need a compensation to pay? You pay the compensation based on what you have sold. That was the issue of that account. Now, that the proceeds of 15 billion plus, we are trying to know where was it, who did use that. So that's the reason we are critical on those accounts. You close this, you open this, you close them. Don't you see, even if you would be on our side, that is something which is wrong, because when you look at the first account, it was closed. Then we have a phase of new accounts. Then those ones, they were closed. Then went back to the first account, which currently even the executive secretary, they are operating. The same accounts, they are operating. Even you, once you did operate them, you went back and started operating it. Well, I have a question also, which I have a question, because you started operating it without authority. Yes. The same account, the first account, which was the Bank of Uganda. Then when you are operating those accounts, the new ones, which you have stated, which were they handed over to you, then in a period of time you closed them. Then you continue to operate the first accounts. So that's where we have a problem. We need a thorough explanation so that we can be able to track down the 15 billion.
Chair, if I read the report again of the PSST on page B, section 4, it says in the Divestiture Committee report, the committee reported to the Minister General on 30th January 2006 in Appendix 2, that since the exercise commenced in 1993, the divestiture exercise, a total of 1,605 properties have been sold. Of these, only 1,524 properties had been fully paid for, translating into the So, from the information available, it would appear that the figure of the 15 billion was cumulative sales from 1993 to 2005 over a period of time. And at no material time, Chair, did this figure ever get reflected on the account of the custodian board as a lump sum? Because Chair, the sales of these properties, the money would be used for compensation and for the daily operations of the custodian board. And the report is attached as R3, R4, and R5.
So what do I do now?
You see,
The premise is summoning.
Under Secretary, we want to know because there are things which we tend to do because it will help the committee to realize where the problem emanates from. On 16th May 2011, we are seeing your letter addressed to the Director Bank of Uganda. Submission of endorsement card. Enclosed here, we find attached an endorsement card from Ms. Toffers to Ms. Lise, Accounts Assistant, replacing Grace A. Obache, who will be operating the following accounts. That is departed the Asian's property custodian board account, that's collection account. Of the first accounts, then departed Asian's property custodian board operational account. Effort is already with you. We will appreciate your prompt response on the above subject, and you sign. If you can take us through, was this person authorized by law to take charge of the accounts of the custodian board? We are not yet at sea to appreciate it, so we need to know from you.
Chair, you are absolutely right, and I don't want to go back to my comment, but that was the problem with the custodian board, because at the time I took over, there were no accounts, and there were no accounts. So the accountant general, who is mandated to manage the accounts, the central accounts of government, took over. Now that took us to Ministry, there was the cashier with Ministry of Finance. And the accountant general authorized the person to operate the accounts because there was no one in place. And the letter I wrote, the accounting officer is authorized to write to Bank of Uganda to introduce, we call them agents, to introduce an agent. But this agent would have been prior authorized by the accountant general. And maybe if I could also clarify that there is no one, Honorable Chair, who is authorized in this country to open or close an account in the central bank. It's only one person, the accountant general, who is the accounting officer.
My question is, when did you take charge of custodian board?
It was beginning
205 to 2? 205 to
209,
around
because the time I handed over, there was no one in charge.
So you can say 010?
So I kept, they would give me things to do. Even now, they were bringing things for me to do, and I would say no.
So now my question is,
I handed over in exactly 2010, beginning of 2010.
Yeah, my question now comes. You mean by the time you took charge, the time you left, there were no accounts, because you said there were no accounts, you know?
There were no accounts.
So by the time you took charge, the time you left, you mean there were no account again? What were you operating?
That's a good question, Chairperson. It was being operated by the Ministry of Finance as under the mainstream Ministry of Finance accounting system with the Ministry of Finance staff. Then later on, the Accountant General appointed one lady as the accountant for custodian board and the treasurer, and I think somebody else.
Before me here, I'm seeing a letter dated June 27, 2011, addressed to the Director, Banking, Bank of Uganda. Change of signatories for departed Asians Property Custodian Board, account number 0080088000203 and code 080088000202. If I can read for the benefit of others, please refer our earlier letter of given reference outlining the opening of the above mentioned accounts. The purpose of this letter is to withdraw Mr. Tumwesije S. Bernard, the Executive Secretary's signature as principal signatory to the above mentioned accounts and introduce Mrs. Betty Kasimbazi as Secretary / Accounting Officer and Mr. Kintu James as alternate signatories. Mr. E.O.L. Bochi remains a principal signatory. We shall be grateful to receive a copy of your letter confirming the withdrawal of signatories to the above accounts. Now, that was 2011. In a situation where there was no functioning account, why was withdraw? What was the purpose of this letter? To withdraw Bernard, who was the then executive secretary, from the to be a signatory, replacing by you, where there was no accounts.
Chair, I imagine that letter must have come from the Secretary of the Treasury.
No, it was written by E.O.L. Bochi, Accountant General.
Chair, at that time, the custodian board accounts were being run by the Ministry of Finance.
But Bernard was the secretary
Yes.
or executive secretary.
Yes, chairperson, and I had since withdrawn from custodian board, but they requested me to stand in because I was the accounting officer. The reason is the custodian board had nothing, no accounts, no nothing. And they said, as we try and put systems in place, let's have signatories, otherwise the custodian board will have closed. There will be no transactions. Now, at the time I was made the signatory, the Bank of Uganda wouldn't recognize Ghana because the Bank of Uganda recognizes, should I say, civil servants who are signatories to these accounts in the Ghana, which Ghana is.
Before I proceed to ask my very pertinent question, let me ask Mama Juro, because she was in the custodian board time memorial and she still has institutional memory. By that period of time, from 2005 to 2011, there were no accounts according to your collection.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I speak, I want this to be put clearly and very seriously. I will give a preamble. The investigative committee sold properties. The monies were put in a collection account, amounting to 15 billion, I'm not sure exactly what I'm talking about. And when we left on 30th of January 2006, the money was still there. And another point which I want to emphasize, which probably to Rector, she told us that that money of sale was used probably for running Castellan, but I want to put it clear to you to date. Any money from sale is really respected money. Nobody touches it because it's meant for compensation. The money that we use for operations, for running cars, for travel and so on, comes from the operational account, and that money is money of rent. Now, when we left, the accounts were running. We came back to form the accounts running. By the time I was put, when e-banking started, and I was put as one of the signatories to the account, what we found was nothing. Let me ask, where did this money go? Where is the list for compensation? There was nothing. The same account but empty. That's what we found out. Accounts of an institution that was running, despite the fact that the investigative committee was out, the accounts were running. This is a fact. I speak because people who may not know the details of this case may think that yes, the investigative committee has been owned, they have been selling. Where is the money? Might think have eaten the money. Those who do not know the details may think that the investigative committee made a mess. We did not.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number two,
Yes, sir.
you are talking about the accounts. Accounts now in Stanbic Bank or in Bank of Uganda? Where?
Mr. Crew, if I may answer you through Mr. Chairman. While we started working at Casidiango, like during Casidiango in 1989, things were so streamlined. This changing of accounts here and there and so on happened when the domestic committee was out. When we were there was a collection account, there was an operation account. But this business of closing an account here, opening one there, doing ABC there, all these jobs happened when the domestic committee was not around. And the domestic committee only came back on 2nd of October 2010. And when became, all those dramas were taking place.
Before you left, which account were those accounts were in which bank?
The accounts, when we left, collection has always been in Bank of Uganda. Operations account was in Stanbic.
My question to Undersecretary, former Undersecretary, I'm sorry if I address you Undersecretary, it will serve the same purpose because the matter we are dealing with, it was dealing with it as in the position of the same. I'm seeing a confirmation of checks on the park collection account when you are written, signed by Bet Kasimbas for permanent secretary. I'm seeing confirmation of checks from the collection drawn on the park collection account. Signed by Bet Kasimbazi. I'm seeing a confirmation of check drawn on the park collection account worth 9.8, worth 9.7. The other one was 9.0. The first one was 9.5, drawn and authorized by Madame Kasimbas. Now, in a situation where there was no account, what this confirmation received by Stanbic Bank, what was it for? Because there was no operating account, as you say, and we are seeing you signing, withdrawing. What is that?
Chairperson, I will state it again that in the absence of, as Madam Chua has put it, this custodian board, I think, was closed way back in 1996, and they kept reducing the number of staff. As the Honorable Minister put it, when we ran it, I think they had 164. By the time I joined, there were 3 people. By the time I joined, there were only 3 people. There was Ruth Orijo, she was the legal manager, the accountant, and everything. Then there was Ms. Hamweringa, who was the claims manager. There was one person as the
Clarification. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, there was no accountant. The last accountant of Custodian Board was somebody called John Majara, Yakoti. He left to be LC5 Masindi. After that, no accountant was in.
So my question is, when you say you didn't have, my question is about accounts, accounts, not accountants.
Bank accounts or
Bank accounts, yes. When you say there was no bank account, and I'm seeing for the accounts, for the accountant, that one we shall reach into that. The question which we have been asking is the accounts. Which accounts? Because by the time you took charge, you said you had an account and you inherited accounts from Stanbic Bank. The question is, we are seeing 2 accounts in each When we look at collectional account, we are seeing an account in Bank of Uganda and Stanbic. When you go to operational account, we are seeing an operational account in Bank of Uganda and in Stanbic. When you go to Special Divestiture Revolving Fund, we are seeing an account in Bank of Uganda and in Stanbic. But both they are in, those ones, both they are in Bank of Uganda. The two Special Divestiture Revolving accounts. There are two accounts in the Bank of Uganda. There was L15/1915 and 001242081. So the question is, who did operate those accounts? And two, that's why I asked you the first time, which amount were supposed to be deposited on a collectional account, operational account, and the special divestiture development account, which you explained, sir, that maybe those who came from rent and sale of property, that's where you could deposit them in collection account. Not so?
Can I ask something, Chair? I just want to be clear on this honorable here. In your submission, you said that when you are still a custodian board, the two accounts were in Bank of Uganda, the collection account and the operation account. Now, my first question is, who opened these accounts now in the Stanbic Bank? Because that should be the first question. Who opened those accounts in the Stanbic Bank? Originally, they are opened in Bank of Uganda. We are now seeing accounts in the Statutory Bank. That is the first question. And then the second question, which is also part of the issue we should address. We are seeing closing of accounts from Statutory again back to Bank of Uganda. And from accounting to the chair, if the accounts were closed in the Statutory Bank, then the closing balance in the Statutory Bank should be an opening balance in the Bank of Uganda. So we also want to know if there is a statement showing that at the closing in the Stanbic Bank, there was this balance. When they opened in Bank of Uganda, that balance will put them on the opening. So I want those two to be clear on the same.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether I should be the one to answer this question because I was not around. The account, first of all, the collection account and operational account that I ran, I found them already open because I'm not the one who started the custodian board. I came in 1990, I think either 1991 or 1992, something like that. The custodian was already running. How they came to open, and I said, I knew at least of two accounts. The collection, where we would put the rent, and the operation account, which would, to answer that issue, operational, to allow custodian board to run, pay salaries, pay wages, and other expenses, to collect rent. Subsequently, I'm told, I don't know, I'm told that there is also now another account they opened for the sales. Whether that is correct or not, I say it's a hearsay because I didn't operate it. When the properties were, by the time I left myself, no property had been sold. We were depending solely on the revenues generated from rent of the properties. You know, we were big landlords at that time. Everybody was running custodian board for a property. So that's what I know. I don't know who opened, who closed it. I have no idea at all.
Now, I think this is to Madam Under Secretary. The second question was about when the accounts were closed, what was the closing balance in the Stanbic Bank? And when they opened in the Bank of Uganda, what was the opening balance on the account in the Bank of Uganda? I have the third question.
Chair, when I took over on the collection account.
No, you don't want when you do. When they close the bank, the accounts, what was the closing balance. Yes, because according to the information, let me be honest with you, according to the information we have, that you didn't hand over the statements of accounts when they closed over. So, you see, I think that's when we are pushing that question. So by the time of close, by the time it closed, what was the closing balance?
Chairman, if you allow me, I want to start with my takeaway. When I took over, the balance on the collection account was 800, as I stated. But and the ones on operation was 15. But the responsibility of closing and opening was not mine. It's the accountant general under the treasurer. So whatever balances were on those accounts and the opening balances would be brought from the Treasury General Ledger under the Treasury. And when we operated these accounts in the central bank, I got a statement from the central bank. It showed the balances.
On which period?
It was from 1999, and the period of the central bank is 205. The statement I was looking at, what is it? Chairman, I'm trying to get the statement of the central bank to show the monies that were there at that time.
You see, Anna Secretary, you see the problem why these things are keeping on happening is we have two, closure and opening. Before we had those accounts in Bank of Uganda, and then in between there, according to you, when you were briefing the board, that they were closed.
Chair, I'm not too sure about that. Custodian board.
But I'm seeing, I have information here in a minute.
That the accounts in the central bank were closed.
Which accounts were you talking about?
From Stanbic Bank.
From Stanbic Bank.
Yes.
Those were the one who
closed to the central bank because the government started a system of straight through, and they said all commercial bank accounts must be closed.
Now,
all.
That's where the problem, the question comes.
Yes.
Before those accounts in commercial banks, custodian board had accounts in Bank of Uganda, which is arranged that their proceedings, because Mama Juru, she has made a very clear statement of that all the proceedings from the sales of the properties were banked on collection accounts, and were not supposed to be removed from there unless when they are compensating the property. Did I get you well, Mama Juru?
Yes, sir.
Then that one of rent were banked on which account?
Operations account.
On operations account.
And that was where salaries and
they are withdrawn. Now I'm seeing some documentation we have when they are writing to the permanent secretary to allow custodian board during Betka Simba's tenure to allow them to withdraw money from collection account, operation account, just to pay salary.
Chair, like I have stated, I stated that.
No, Madam Kasimba, when did that change? Because according to Mama Juru, the money which was banked on collection account, its purpose was only to pay for compensation. And the money which was banked on operational account from rent was to pay the administration of the day-to-day running of the board, the custodian board. But before me, I'm seeing some withdrawal from collection accounts, purposely to pay salaries, allowances for valuers, allowances for the office of undersecretary, medical treatment, allowances to office attendants, payment of income tax. Yeah, these are the things I'm seeing. Do you have any resolution by the board during your tenure which allowed you to use the money which was supposed to be for compensation to be used in a day-to-day running of the board? And also, where did the rent which was supposed to be banked on operational account to be used on the day-to-day running of the board, where was it spent for? Which items were used to spend it for? Or by that time of when you were in the office, you did have tenants in all custodian board properties?
Chairperson, as you've stated, the monies on the collection account were proceeds from sales, but they would be transferred to the divestiture account. So maybe what I remember is there would be money, if you got money for sales, it would be transferred to the divestiture account. To me, when I joined, the main account for custodian board was the divestiture revolving account, which held the money from the sales. It would be deposited on the collection, then transferred to the divestiture.
But I'm seeing, Madam Hasiba,
yes.
I'm seeing checks here.
Yes, I was going back, yes.
From collection account
True.
to pay salaries and rent administration.
Chairperson, you're very right. And from what I've also been looking through, then some monies would be picked from this divestiture account back to the collection account. I think the divestiture account was the end account where all the monies for custodian board would be accounted for. Then any other monies would be on these two accounts, the collection and operation.
No, before the chairman comes in, before you come in, Mama Kiru, I want to ask Undersecretary, during your tenure, did you withdraw the amount from collection account to pay compensation, to pay for the purpose of paying compensation? If yes, in your tenure, would you submit before this committee the list of those compensation properties you did compensate from the amount from the collection account?
Chair, if you give me time, I'll get you the details. I'll get you the details. Yes, it's true we compensated, and I'll get you the details. I remember compensations, that's very true, and I'll get you the details of the compensation.
Before you come in, let's have broken like that.
Yes, I'll get you the details, Chair.
You get us the details?
I'll get you the
When do you
details.
think I'll submit the details?
By this evening.
By this evening.
I'll go into the archives and search for them.
Then,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Undersecretary, the reason why Chair is insisting on the question of why money was picked from collection account to operation account, according to the Auditor General's report, the issue is about whether there was authorization and approval. And we want to know whether you had any instrument that would authorize you to withdraw money from the collection account to operation account. And if it is there, who approved after you have made the appointment? That is the question. Authorization and approval as a matter of accountability.
Thank you, Chair. Like I had stated, the monies from custodian board were controlled by the PSST, the legal manager, the accounting officer, the internal auditor, the commissioner internal auditor, and then the accountant general. So that was the procedure. So there would be no single time where one person handles the accounts on their own. And if I read from the report of this was 207. It was a report by the divestiture committee. No, by the management committee, and the management committee, which was headed by Ruth Orijo then, it says from 202 to 207, the Department of Statutory Corporations, Office of the Auditor General, in a separate report, made regarding the matter on the accounts. We have been operating 2 accounts with Stanbic Bank and 1 in Bank of Uganda, and these are the statements they gave: the correction account, the operation account, and the divestiture revolving account. And in that report, they said they were handed over to the Auditor General, and they said that divestiture revolving account was controlled by the Accountant General, but all the money on it from the sale of expropriated properties, this account is controlled by Accountant General. I think it's a mistake, and I think she meant to say all the money from the sales were banked on this account. Money.
Clarification, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Money for sales went into collection account. I speak because the investor committee,
207.
our litigation is at stake. Money was banked in collection account. The special investor deposit account was an account that was that had foreign currency. It was the money it was in pounds. And that money was for the proceeds came from late application. Each time a repossessor wanted to repossess his property after 30th of September, 30th of October 1993, he had to get special permission from the Minister of Finance. If the Minister of Finance accepted his request for late application, then we would require that person to deposit £50 into that special investigator revolving account in the Bank of Uganda. No money of sale, direct sale, was put in that account, at least as far as I can remember.
I thank you.
No, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I got confused. This colleague of mine asked Betty who authorized her. Was that your question?
Yes.
And I didn't get, your answer.
You see, members, it's true, I was giving Madam Betty to respond, but whatever was responding, because it was, I was thinking that it's going to end by giving the authority, the person authorized. Because when you look at the documentation here, Madam Betty Kasimbas was authorized the instruments to sign, to be a principal signatory on those accounts. Collection account and the operational accounts in Bank of Uganda. I quote those in Bank of Uganda. That the instrument was addressed to the Director Banking on June 27. But what perhaps a lot, by 17th June 2011, the Undersecretary was signing withdrawing the money before the instrument. She was already signing on the account withdrawing as authorized the signatory. So we want the instrument prior to this 27th instrument, which was issued by the Accountant General, which gave you powers to withdraw the money from these 2 accounts, not the one which the one of Bank of Stanbic Bank, but now we're talking of Bank of Uganda, which said they were closed But here we are seeing you, before the instrument, this instrument, withdrawing, if I can read, but I'm saying 17th June, Director Bank of Uganda, transfer of Uganda shillings 44 million from account number 0000800880000202. That is a collection account, a operational account. You are withdrawing this money, and your usual cooperation highly appreciated. Bet Kasimbas authorized the signatory. Moreover, the letter which gave you powers to be a signatory on that account, it was written on 27th June 2011. Now the question is, before this letter, what authority did you have to withdraw money on the account? You see, that's what now perhaps that maybe whoever could find, he could go on that account and withdraw the money. That's why we are seeing the 15 billion is nowhere to be seen, because whoever wanted, you go and withdraw. The same time now you're asking some other person to withdraw. We are looking at where do you get also the instrument which was given to you to endorse Mr. Tofas to run these account, custodian board accounts. So these are the issues, simple issues we want to know. Then when we get to know, we can find where that money which was paid on which was deposited in the account, really we can trace someone who did it. We are seeing now 3 signatories, one authorized by you, one without authorization because you are now withdrawing the money, and the one with Accountant General. Now, before Accountant General giving you powers of instrument on 27th June 2011, you were already withdrawing the money on those accounts. That was on 17th June 2011. So this is what the committee wants to know.
Chairperson, from your document, I see one was before the end of the financial year, because the accounting officer is given powers by Secretary to the Treasury to manage accounts of an institution in a financial year. So from the statements, it looks like one was in June, before the end of the financial year, one was in July, beginning of another financial year.
No.
They're both in June?
No. You can have a look at them. Both. Look at this one and the other one.
This one?
No, you are signing that signatory on that one. You don't use your signature.
Yes, Chairperson, but I was signing with the Accountant General.
But you are signing as who? That's not what we need, because Accountant General, he could not just pick whoever happens in the ministry. I don't know whether it's a practice, the chairman of the board. I don't know whether it's a practice in the ministry where the Accountant General can pick anybody he wants to sign.
Chairperson, maybe if I can clarify. From the very beginning, I stated it. When I joined the Ministry of Finance, the Secretary of Treasury then, the late Chris Kasani, gave me an administrative arrangement to manage custodian board because there was no one there.
That was when?
2005.
2005. But there are these accounts which you found operating in Islamic Bank. And we are running them. But we are seeing now, in 2011, when you have even retired. Because in 2000, you said you were handling those issues from 205 to around 2010 when you add 010 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 when you